is Perpetual Geek Machine show number 101 for Friday, August 2nd, 2013. I am Kevin Alexander. I'm joined today by Dan Zuccarelli and Daniel Lloyd, and together we combine to form the Perpetual Geek Machine. Welcome, the Dans.
Good to be here.
Yeah,
Wonderful
good to be.
101.
I almost feel like I'm like we're part of a rock band now. It's like Kevin and the Dans.
Nice.
You know, like a three-piece blues trio or something. But we got I'm excited about the show because we are fucking all over the place tonight. We got books, we got movies. Well, I should say we have one of each. We have a book, we have a movie, we have a comic, we have a PC game, and then we have something. I don't even want to spoil it. We'll talk about something after 5-Hit Combo, which is going to be the Dans facing off tonight. And we're going to talk about the top 5 things I'm most likely to become famous for. And the I in that situation is the author of the list, so it's not Kevin.
My list yesterday, until like a few hours ago, was things Kevin would be famous for. I don't know Kevin that well.
That's why it's always good to make sure that we're talking about the same things. We have come to many of these armed with lists everybody interpreting the list in a different manner, and that sometimes leads to confusion, but interesting things anyway. But yeah, I don't know. It's let's not waste any more time. Let's just get going. And Dan Zook, why don't you tell me what you've been doing?
All right. Well, first thing is I just finished a book, or a very good book, called Codename Verity. It's a young adult book. I'll preface it by saying that, but this is a young adult and in the like Hunger Games realm of age-wise. So it's it's not like a kid's book or anything like that.
Yeah, my wife's reading this right now, actually.
Okay. So it's a story written from the perspective of a spy who was captured by the Nazis in France during the war. So it's her written confession, and she basically decides to completely roll over for the Nazis and give them everything they want so she can try to survive. In this hotel that's been converted into a prison in France. So the entire thing is her confession, basically, and it's her writing it. Like, so you really are just hearing. Or you're reading what she wrote, like exactly what she wrote, that then gets translated from English and French into German, so the Nazis can read it and figure out the codes and all that sort of thing. I actually listened to the audiobook version of this after it was recommended to me by my wife.
Okay.
And the audiobook actually is much more like a radio play than it is a narration.
Okay.
Like it's really told from a perspective of two people, like these two friends, and the confession is one side of it, and then you hear from the friend, and they actually have different narrators for both of them, so you're getting completely different inflection in the voices and things like that. What was super interesting to me about it was a fantastic story, first of all, but it's there's a mechanic in the book that's not really used enough, and certainly not well, but that's the idea of the irreliable or unreliable narrator. That the narrator in the story might not be telling you the truth. Like, they might have a reason to be hiding something from the reader, because theoretically the reader in this are the Nazi guards that she's writing this confession to. Like, you are just reading that. You're not hearing what she thought about what she wrote afterwards in her cell or anything like that. You're only hearing, or you're only reading her confession, which is inherently unreliable. Which is super interesting to me when they do it, and it's done extraordinarily well here. And the narration is done even better. I would imagine the book is fantastic, but I think listening to this one actually did, enhance it just because of the way that they did it.
Okay.
If you've never listened to an audiobook, I would actually very recommend maybe signing up for an Audible trial or something like that and trying out a book like this, because it's not just somebody in a studio reading off a narrated book and that's it. Like, it really is sort of performed more than it is narrated.
Yeah. I actually did that recently. I didn't necessarily I actually just straight up bought the audiobook, but for Mark Maron's autobiography they just released not too long ago.
Okay.
Because I spend so much time listening to the guy talk to me anyway that it felt, since he reads the book,
yeah,
felt just kind of the correct way to consume that. was with him reading his own words and in a format that I'm used to.
Yeah, so I mean, you actually do have options. Most libraries lend out audiobooks, or a lot of libraries digitally lend out audiobooks. In New Jersey, is through a thing called Overdrive, which might actually be how a lot of states do it. So you actually do, if you don't want to buy the audiobook, because they do tend to get expensive, there is a lot of options. I will
they
say,
can be like $35 a piece for a lengthy book.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're still buying it on CDs, usually they're like 8 to 12 discs, so like that kind of crap just like adds up. What makes the book so interesting is that in the course of her confession, this girl is really telling a story about her and her friends through the war, and that's what makes it interesting. It's not just a flat out confession. She uses the confession to tell the story of her and her friends, to sort of drag out the time that it's taking for her to give the confession, and it very much reminded me of in V for Vendetta, when Natalie Portman's character was fake in the cell, and she found the story of the girl who was also in prison with her, or supposed to be in the cell next door, and she was living with a girl, and the police came and kicked the door in, and things got bad. Like she was confessing, but she was telling the story of her friendship and her life up, from the war leading up till now. They don't really get into like the higher powers of the war, your Hitlers, your huge battles. It's really a tiny story about this girl and the friend that she made while they were serving on airfields and would cross paths and things like that. Okay. Beautifully done, really was, and it's one of those things where the characters were well thought out enough that the fact that they were fictional doesn't lessen the the pain and the joy of them going through this story. Like it really does. Like it felt like it could be an actual confession that somebody had printed, like a Diary of Anne Frank type of thing. Like it really did read very well. So, like I said, sure, the book was good, but I would actually recommend it as trying out for an audiobook if you never have.
Awesome.
So.
That sounds definitely like something I want to check out. So, but let's move on. Lloyd, Daniel, I want to hear about Wolverine.
I did. I saw the Wolverine.
Taking a sharp left turn from Nazi books to comic book movies.
There's a really blunt segue in there somewhere, but let's just get right into it.
I couldn't find it, but you're welcome to try.
Something with Nazis and X-Men, and so yeah, this is basically Wolverine goes to Japan.
Okay.
It's pretty good. Good.
Compared to the last, have you seen the last couple? Like was it an Origins, and then there was after Origins there was another one?
There was First Class, but that was good.
Yeah, that was actually a good one.
I liked First Class.
But that really wasn't Wolverine was in it. Yeah, First Class was great. X-Men Origins Wolverine is really bad. Don't want to see that one. But this new one that just came out is pretty good.
So why does this one exist? If they already did X-Men Origins Wolverine, why is there a Wolverine movie now?
Money, and more importantly, so the X-Men Origins, sort of as the title says, is a prequel. It was sort of the, how Wolverine came to be and how he ended up at the start of the first X-Men movie, how he ended up there. And I think there were plans to make that X-Men Origins kind of like its own franchise, like do an Origins Magneto and Origins something else, and sort of do these individual prequel movies for everyone. The Wolverine one didn't work out. They ended up doing First Class instead. So the new one is another sequel. It takes place after the events of X-Men 3. Basically, sort of at the end of that movie, spoiler alert, Jean Grey has died. Phoenix sort of took her over. Wolverine had to kill her. A lot of the X-Men sort of get disbanded and things. So Wolverine's kind of back in his element of being on his own, a loner, just sort of shut down, living in the mountains. And it starts off with a flashback of he was in Japan when the atomic bomb hit, and he saved this soldier who Wolverine was a prisoner, and he ended up saving the soldier who was watching over him. So cut to now, he's living in the mountains. That soldier is now an old man and wants to personally thank him before he dies. And just sort of set up what happens is that he's like, hey, I'm about to die. You can live forever. That must be a pain in the ass. Let's switch. I know some people. I'll live forever. I'll let you die.
I got a guy.
Yeah. And Wolverine's kind of like, thanks, but no thanks. I'm good. Well, then, of course, the guy doesn't take no for an answer, and things go off, and Wolverine's fighting everyone. And but yeah, he's running around Japan, fighting samurais, fighting yakuza. So there's sort of three sort of main characters going on. Yeah, it's good. There's a big action set piece at the beginning. There's a big action set piece at the end, and the middle is actually sort of a pretty good, just like drama. He's falling in love with the granddaughter of the dude, and yeah, it's good. Apparently, there's one comic series, I don't know the name of it, where Wolverine is in Japan and fighting samurais, and that's like this really well-regarded series. That's sort of the thing they wanted to do with it. They just modernized it. Yeah.
All right, that sounds interesting. Well,
and there's a pretty good sting at the end, just after the credits, not all the way through.
Right.
Teasing next summer's Days of Future Past.
Cool.
Yeah, there was a the first picture of Peter Dinklage in his like it looks like 70s scientist garb on I posted it on Twitter a little while ago.
Yeah.
It certainly helps to give that movie a lot of place. I still some days I can't believe how good First Class was compared to X-Men 3. He really did manage to pull that back.
I definitely was surprised how much I enjoyed First Class, and I still it's on TV a lot, and I still really enjoy watching it.
So are they going to pull Wolverine into Days of Future Past then? Does this take place somewhere along that?
They're tying all of that together, the Bryan Singer timeline and the First Class timeline, and now this other separate Wolverine movie. Like it's all Days of Future Past is going to somehow bring it all together, because Bryan Singer's back for that one. The director of this one of the Wolverine did 3:10 to Yuma.
Oh, the new one. That was really good.
Huh.
Yeah, and Copland, I think, was the other thing. I was looking him up last night.
Oh, man. Copland. That's like a fucking late 90s joint. I remember there was a lot of deal out of that, a lot of big deal out of that, because it was like Sly Stone acting good. Like Sly Stone, good actor.
Fat for that movie? Didn't he put on a lot of weight?
Yeah, he gained a bunch of weight and everything. Yeah. And Ray Liotta did too, and then he never lost it. So.
That's right. That's that movie.
Yeah. I saw it. I can't tell you a thing about it other than Sly Stallone and Ray Liotta were in it, but I saw it. If you don't mind, I'll take over from here since we're on comics already, talking about that sort of stuff. I have been reading the new digital series, Batman 66. It's coming out one a week so far. They're kind of short, and it's called Batman 66 because it's based on the Adam West and Burt Ward TV show, the very classic TV show, Batman. And that's where it was basically my introduction to Batman, in reruns when I was growing up. And this whole the whole thing just takes on that persona, that sort of the really kitschy dialogue and the art style, and they're kind of the characters are modeled to look after the people who really played them. And so far it's the whole thing so far has been written by Jeff Parker. The first three issues formed a storyline called The Riddler's Ruse, which we had obviously the Riddler in. Catwoman made an appearance in that, and Jonathan Case did the art on that. He the only other thing I could find him for was a series called Mystery Man, which I know nothing about. And the first three issues were fucking awesome because they're only 99 cents a piece, and they were actually they were only viewable in that guided view on Comixology. We've talked about that before, and so the frames they were 4x3 frames, so just the television show was shot in, and you'd have I don't know if any other comics done this before, but it was new to me. Looking at it this way, so they would basically fade stuff in layers. It was almost like turning Photoshop layers on, and to help tell the story. So they might stay in the same frame for 3 times that you hit the right arrow, or you hit the right side of your screen on your tablet to read this, and stuff would fade on. So it was almost like a motion comic in a way, but it was all still frames.
The Guardians of the Galaxy character introductions before that rebooted not too long ago that did the same sort of thing.
Okay, so it's I figured it wasn't new, but it was the first time I had seen it, and I think it's really, really cool way to tell the story. So then the first 3 issues do this, and they're 99 cents a piece, and so I guess they're doing it weekly because it's tune in next week sort of thing, like the old TV show. But then the 4th issue comes around, starts a new storyline with the Penguin, and they're not doing it anymore. It's just regular like guided view style.
Slide it around. It might be expensive. It might just be time consuming and expensive.
Oh, it's got to be time consuming. I understand that, but like it was kind of a bummer. I was thinking the whole thing was going to be like this, and you know, it's still like it's kitschy, fun entertainment. It's super cheap. Like I said, it's 99 cents an issue. And I don't know. I'll probably keep the subscription up for a while. And also, I hadn't been to Comixology in a while, and they finally started subscription services. So you can subscribe to certain comic series, and they will be automatically delivered to your comics every time they come out. You get an email on like Thursday or Friday before they come out, giving you a heads up, like, hey, Fatal issue 14 and Saga issue 30 are coming to your inbox next week. So it's that's pretty cool.
I really got to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's easier to keep up with it. It's easy to fall behind. I'm sorry, Lloyd, I cut you off though.
No, it's fine. I've just been following their. They send in an email every week, every Wednesday, of like, hey, here's everything new that's in the store. So yeah, before the subscriptions, like that's what I've been doing is just going through that email, checking off, what I want to get.
Yeah, I used to just go and look at the site every week, and I would see new stuff sometimes here and there, but this is a lot easier. Like I don't read a ton of comics, but I know which ones I do want to read. And so it's instead of just having to try and tune in every week, I can just tell it, just give me these, just deliver these to me. So
on the other hand, though, like having to look through that every week, like I've discovered some new stuff of like, oh, this is interesting. It's a new #1. Like maybe I'll see what that's about.
Yeah. This is something they're calling like DC2. It's like another relaunch sort of thing, and they're actually taking the whole Batman '66 TV series and they're doing stuff with that particular time period of Batman. They're releasing like Barbie dolls and that kind of stuff. They're doing all kinds of new licensing, which a lot of people are kind of excited, thinking that maybe they finally figured out the licensing to get this stuff out on home video, because it has never appeared on home video.
Yeah.
Besides the movie based on the TV series, it has never appeared on the TV series itself has never appeared on home video. Which I wrote a little bit. I wrote a review of this on our site, and I kind of go into a little bit of that, but not much, because it's kind of a really complicated, tangled mess of bullshit.
Somebody realized there's a lot of money sitting on a table somewhere that they could go pick up if they figured out how to do this. So.
Exactly. I'd be all over that shit, even if they just like put them up on YouTube or something.
Something, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to pass it off to you, Dan, to finish up our what you've been doing and talk about Retrograde.
So I picked this. I didn't buy a lot during this Steam sale. As I don't know if I'd say I was proud of myself, because I think everything that went on sale I either owned already or had bought in previous Steam sales and had never played. But either way, I only ended up buying 2 things. I bought Grid 2, which I've been playing a tiny bit, but not enough that I want to talk about yet. And this other game called Retrograde that was it was like $250 or something. Justin McElroy from Joystick was talking about it. It's a rhythm-based shoot-'em-up game that plays in reverse. So at the very beginning, like, you take one shot at this final boss, and then the credits start rolling as your ship flies away, and then like something happens, and then everything just pulls in reverse. So you're basically playing through like the end of the game back to the beginning, but you're going backwards. So you're moving your ship to where the bullets are sliding across. So when the bullets like would hit where your ship is, that's where you had fired it. So you were there to have fired it. So the enemies keep like they start as big explosions and then like congeal into like the actual ship that they were, because it's backwards of you shooting it and destroying it.
Oh wow.
So you're essentially like in frequency or amplitude or rock band even, really. You're moving your ship up and down the screen to capture or to hit these, bullets as they come out of your ship.
Okay.
But the music is really awesome. You're avoiding obstacles and stuff as you move around, so that they definitely like shake it up of like abilities that you need to do and ways that enemies like attack you and things you have to like ways you work, because you have to avoid the shots that are fired at you while you collect the bullets that your ship is firing. Again, all in reverse. And I think my favorite part of the game is that if you look inside your ship, your little astronaut guy is bobbing his head in time to the music.
Oh, nice.
Which was like the funniest fucking thing. So
what's the art style like? Is it like a 3D, 2D thing?
It's like a 2D side scroller game, but it's not pixels. It's fully rendered stuff.
Okay.
I almost chalk it up to like Geometry Wars is a terrible example, because the enemies are all fully like they're poly ships, they're polygon ships.
Mm-hmm.
But the background art style, the color bursts and stuff remind me a lot of like the nonsense that goes on around Geometry Wars. So,
Right.
but yeah, it's not. They're not trying to go for like a retro, like 80s look or anything like that. This is all fully like it's all fully done. It's just essentially a rhythm game, really, is what it is. But you have to avoid shit tons of bullets because it is a shoot 'em up. So but it just the whole thing plays in reverse, and that's the gimmick of it. So,
Right.
but
All right.
it's really unique. It's really different. I don't know how much it is now, again, because I picked it up during the Steam sale, but it's definitely worth the $250, and I would say it's probably worth the $5 or $6 that it is normally. So,
Yeah.
it's called Retrograde.
Yeah, I'm looking up the price right now. It's $9.99 normally.
Yeah, so I would say it's worth
Yeah.
it. So. And then finally, I guess to lead back into the comics thing, Kev, you played this with us, right? We
I
played
did,
this
yeah. We were at my house when we played it. So
that's right.
was definitely here.
I played it again
Okay.
since then. So we've twice now played the DC Universe deck building game. What a phenomenal title! What an inventive title they are.
Oh yeah.
Stands right alongside the Resident Evil deck building game and Star Trek: The Next Generation deck building game.
Well, I mean, like, what else do you need to know about it? Like, it's here's the universe you're playing in, and it's a deck building game.
Here's the deal. So it's very much similar to a game called Ascension: Chronicle of the Godslayer. That is a more interesting title than DC Universe, the deck building game.
I'll say there's another game that's pretty similar to called Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Sentinels of the Multiverse. See, and the Marvel universe has a deck building game as well, but they call it Legendary. Like, anything is better than just calling it deck building game. Like, you could put the deck building game on the box if you want to make sure the customer knows what they're getting, but the name of the thing should be better. I mean, I don't really want to. I wouldn't buy a game that was just called Driving Game. We all made fun of MAG because it was just called MAG, and that's essentially what this is. Like, MAG, if you don't know, was a video game that stood for Massive Action Game, and they called it MAG, and we all made fun of it because the title was stupid.
And they deserved it.
Forgot about that game.
Yeah, yeah. I only remember because we made fun of the title.
Here's our game. We called it Game.
We called it Game. See, that's exactly it. Like, here's our deck building game. I called it deck building game.
There's a Wii U eShop title coming out called 90s Arcade Racer.
That's awesome.
It's like an updated Daytona USA. But
that's like the 70s show.
Racer. Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember the name of that game, but it was that cool 90s arcade racer. Okay, we'll give you that game. So this game, it is a deck building game if you played Dominion or Sentinels of the Multiverse, which I know is very popular right now, or Ascension, things like that. Everybody starts out with the same pretty weak deck. Power-wise, and then you are buying cards. Using those cards, you're acquiring more cards from the table to add to your deck to make your deck more powerful, and so on and so forth until you hopefully accrue more points than everybody else. The interesting difference of this one is that you are all playing as DC characters that get inherent bonuses. So everybody has a slight different bonus in the beginning. So I was playing as Superman, so every superpower card that I had, or differently named superpower card I have, gave me a +1 power, whereas Kevin was playing as Batman, and every differently named equipment card that he had gave him a +1. So it gives you a slightly different style to go for. So if I'm playing Batman, I'm going to try my best to buy more equipment cards than I would maybe otherwise, because they do a little bit more for me than they would do for everybody else.
But then you get stuck when you see something that's not an equipment card, but it's the Batcave.
Yeah, you were just buying everything that had Batman related stuff on it, which certainly works.
I came in second, so
yeah.
I wasn't that far off.
certainly works thematically, but we were talking about it.
I can't help it.
After I played it again on over the weekend, I played with my wife and a couple other people that. Well, let me say this first. So the cards are similar to Ascension, which is another popular deck building game. Also incredibly well done on iOS, if you're really curious.
We interviewed them a while back.
Yes, the guy that Playdeck did that. So there's 5 cards in the middle of the table that's known as the lineup, and those get drawn off a main huge deck of cards, and those are the cards that are available to buy at any time. So they're constantly changing, so you're not going to, Dominion, you don't have the same stacks of 10 cards that you're trying to buy. You never really know what you're going to have access to turn over turn. There's some villains in there, there's some superpowers in there, there's some allies, equipment, locations, stuff like that. Interestingly, if you buy the villain cards when they come up in your deck, when you play them, they do give you bonuses for power to be able to buy more cards and get points and things like that. But they also attack everyone else at the table, and they might have to discard cards or acquire weakness cards that'll take away points into the game, things like that. So there is a bit of an attack-defense thing going on, which a lot of other games don't have. A lot of the complaints with deck building games is they're a uniquely solitaire experience is because it's really you against the game while somebody else is also playing against the game, and you're just seeing who can do that better. Whereas opposed to this, at least you're getting at each other a little bit. I don't know if Sentinels does this or not, Dan. You can speak to if there's actually attacks that are happening, or the ways to interact with each other. But this game does it lightly. Like you're really not gunning for people, but there's some situations where you can kind of like screw each other up a little bit at least, so you have some sort of interaction there.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I've played Sentinels in the Multiverse, but it was more, yes, like the former that you were describing. It's more of a co-op, everyone versus like the villain of the game.
Yeah.
It's sort of like an NPC, like you're drawing cards for the villain who has its own deck.
See, in this game, like there's
that villain,
there's a stack of supervillains that you're ultimately trying to defeat, but when you defeat one of those supervillains, like it becomes part of my deck and gives me a pretty decent attack when it does come back out again. So, on top of getting the points for defeating the supervillain, you are actually you're going to get something around on the other end. So, I really enjoyed it. The art's really cool. The having all the DC access, all the DC characters is fun. Like, it's more interesting than, say, in Dominion, where I'm just buying like a marketplace or stables or something like that. Like thematically, it's more fun. But at the same time, it did rub me the wrong way when we were playing it again, because I'm playing as Spider-Man, or I'm playing as Superman, not Spider-Man, obviously. I'm playing as Superman. I buy Harley Quinn as like a character off the table and add it to my deck. Now, when I play Harley Quinn to the table and she attacks everybody else, what in the DC universe is actually happening there? Like, I'm Superman. Why am I attacking Batman across the table with Harley Quinn? Like, there's no scenario where that kind of thing would happen. Like,
so you're deliberately choosing to play her, right? It's not like she's in your hand and she doesn't have to come up again, or
yeah, no. Like if I buy that card from the lineup, it gets added to my deck. So then when it comes through, when I play it to get the power bonus of it, it also inflicts an attack on everybody else. But I guess it's the thing of like, if I'm playing the card out of my hand to acquire power, then is Superman teaming up with those characters? Because when I play like a Heat Vision card or something like that out of my hand, I imagine that thematically Superman's using Heat Vision, and that gives him, the power bonus. So it's while it's fun and it's a big mashup of a bunch of DC characters, like thematically, once I started thinking about that, it started falling apart a bit for me. Mechanically, it's still solid, so I really enjoy the game. So
yeah, the mechanics are still solid. Like you said before, the artwork's really cool, and the artwork kind of looks like almost like baseball cards, like like trade, like cards you'd buy and trade with your friends, and
yeah, they're really well done.
It's really easy to pick up, just especially if you've ever played like something like Dominion or Ascension before, and the mechanics are so similar.
It's screaming for expansions. I'm sure I'll see them.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing that bugged me, and this is such a minor thing, but I'm sure if Ryan were here, he would agree with me. There was a DC copyright at the bottom of every single card in the deck.
Man.
It was like properties reserved by DC Comics, like DC Comics Limited, 2013, like at the bottom of every fucking card. And it's just like you have this really cool layout, and then like at the end it's like, there's your legalese. Like, we couldn't let the theme just carry through and put the copyright like on the box. No,
like, we know it's copyright, you guys.
At least put it on the back of the card
or something. Like, so like it was one of those things where it's like, the lawyers took a look at this and they got their fucking claws into it.
Yeah,
but it is a fun game. It's it doesn't really ruin anything. It's just sort of like one of those things.
I honestly didn't even notice that. But
no, that's what I mean. Like, it's not a complaint about the game. There's nothing leveled against it, but it's just, I've run into it at my job before, where it's like you design something that looks really cool, and then like somebody decides to show it to the lawyers, and the next thing you know, it's like it's black and white on a white background, black text. Everything's like far enough away from each other to not overlap, because that's the way the lawyers want it. Like, you're done.
Right.
So,
all right. Well, that's going to wrap up what you've been doing. So we're going to take a little break, and this week you can enjoy another track from I Come to Shanghai from their debut album, eponymously titled I Come to Shanghai. This is the track Houses on the Shore, and you can buy their music at, guess what, icometoshanghai.com. So enjoy this, and we'll see you on the other side with 5 to Combo. And for those of you still watching, or that's probably aggression. I'm looking at you.
Can you see?
I see you.
Can
Jay.
you see? You can see.
What?
You can see it, right?
I can see that how many viewers are there.
Interesting.
Hi. I'm actually, I think I might be good to keep going.
I'm okay to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Lloyd. You're good.
So,
Yeah,
Kevin,
I'm okay.
I'm gonna throw this in there real quick. This will
Okay.
be like a tiny thing. I'm probably gonna make a literally joke at some point during this segment. Our friend at work said he might actually check out the podcast, so we're not going to say where my literally joke is based out of. We're just gonna let it go.
Okay.
I don't want to drop any names.
Sounds good.
I meant to tell you that before we started broadcasting, but here we are.
Yeah. Oh well. I forgot to mark the timeline, so it's there somewhere. All right, welcome back.
Yay!
Here we are.
If you like that music, there's a link to their Bandcamp page on the show notes.
Yes. Go check it out. It's cool, kind of like just sort of trippy vibe. You heard the music, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, gentlemen, let's I'm wasting any more time and head directly into 5-hit combo.
Yay.
And as our friend of the show, Jonathan Mitchell, likes to say, 5-hit combo is a friendly competition in which two players read back their top 5 list of a given topic in a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 style, while a third player judges the list based on his or her own personal tastes. The players may change every week, but the game is perpetual. Nothing's gonna beat that fucking bit of audio he did. That magic.
Not until he does it again, and not
he created
without the episode in there, so we can just use it every week.
For real, that's gotta be a simple edit. I know you're listening, jerk face killer. You gotta hook us up with that. Also, speaking of audio bits, if you guys have been listening to our good friends, the Fantastic Neighborhood, their solo shows that new PGMer Fred has been doing. I give him so much credit for carrying on that show on his own. He'll fill a full 40 minutes or so by himself, just talking, doing audio bits. He did this one where he, do you guys use Google Voice for voicemail, like for your phone voicemail at all?
No, I don't.
It does this feature. Dan, Lloyd, do you use it? No,
I don't really have a phone.
Okay. Well, it does this thing where it interprets it takes the recorded message and it sends you a text message on your phone with a transcription.
Yeah.
And so he played into Google Voice a bunch of speeches from Gears of War and then read back how Google Voice interpreted them.
It's funny because Google, I know that, and Google Voice will always, completely butcher whatever you're saying.
Totally fuck it all up. Yeah.
Any voicemail that I've ever gotten from my mother is perfect. It's verbatim.
Really?
So I need to send my mom to Google and have
figure out how that works.
Have them study what is it about her voice that it gets it exactly right every time.
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at it online, if you look at voice.google.com or whatever it is, it will highlight the words that it knows it got correct, and then it will kind of gray out the ones that they're kind of questionable about.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyway, like I said at the top of the show tonight, our topic is the top 5 things I'm most likely to become famous for, and not by I don't mean me, Kevin. I mean the authors of their lists. So it's going to be the Dans facing off. I'm going to judge. So let's just not waste any more time. The coin is up in the air, and Lloyd, you're calling it.
Tails.
Oh, it's tails! Look at that.
Yay.
Shit's quite great.
I'll go first. Why not?
All right. So go ahead. Hit me with your number 5.
Cool. So things that I will become famous for. You guys have made it 101 episodes already.
Mm-hmm.
Things are only going up. Obviously, Perpetual Geek Machine is going to be a big deal. So I'm going to be famous for winning all of these 5-hit combos.
Ah.
Nice. 5-hit combo champion.
Yeah.
Yep.
We gotta get you a Judah Freelander style hat that says 5-hit combo champion on it. That's actually gonna be our first fucking product, guys.
That's it. That's the
Our
one.
first bit of merch.
I don't think I've won one yet, but these are all future things.
Hey, well, we tied last week.
We did, so I'm 0-0-1.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. That's worth a point in some leagues. So.
That is true.
Okay.
Dan, your number 5 thing that you will most likely become famous for.
Mine is also Perpetual Geek related.
Oh, and, boy.
I decided that I would become famous as soon as the at Perpetual Geek Twitter name ends up with more followers than any of the Kardashians. That's the dumb metric I used for famous. Not popular or worthy, mind you, but just famous.
Yeah, they're
This is not a
famous
measure of
Twitter.
worth.
Yeah.
That's a lot to write down.
You could just say more followers than the Kardashians.
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I probably don't. I bet you. The northwest. The kid probably has more followers than we do. So I have a lot of bars to jump, but I'm gonna get there.
Now, my wife and I don't have any kids, and I've often mentioned to her, like, we always talk about, like, we want to have kids, and, you know, we always talk about baby names. And so we have certain ones that we've kind of narrowed it down to, and I've said, like, well, I want to see if their URLs are available. Like, the whoever Alexander.
You're planning ahead, yeah.
I'm planning ahead, because, like, what if they want them someday, you know?
But they're not going to need the URL. Like, you'd get whatever the Tumblr page is 14 years from now.
Yeah, you won't
do that.
But it's going to be thatwhatever.com/your kid's name.
That's fine. I'll just keep registering everything.
If we're even like, they're not going to start they're not going to fucking install WordPress in 14 years. Like, we're going to be doing something else hopefully by then.
Well, hopefully, we'll see. You never know.
Good Lord, I want to be done with URLs.
Name your kid Alexander.
There you go.
I've talked about that, yeah.
You've talked about that.
Yeah, Alexander, or Alex Alexander, you know. All right, Dan Lloyd, your number 4 thing that you'll most likely become famous for.
So a lot of these are sort of wishful thinking.
Nice.
But number 4 is Taylor Swift X number 401.
Nice.
Just by the time that comes around, there will be a big list, and
But you're not the one that's going to settle her down, though. You don't want to be famous for being that guy? You want to be the last one. You're the one that she's
bound to take off. I mean,
she's bound to take off.
Hey, yeah.
Anybody that tries to nail her down is like really that's just asks for trouble. That's like built-in heartbreak.
Dan, what would you rather have? Taylor Swift and then she stops writing music forever because she's happy, or to be with her and then break up so then she would continue to make music?
Probably. She's put out a bunch of records by now. Like, we're good with those. I could settle down.
See? All right, good answer. That's the right answer.
You know, she tries to, like, you know, people try to talk about just from Tennessee and all that stuff. She's actually from, like, a couple hours away in Pennsylvania, in Reading.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
All right, that's...
She was trying to play up to the Philly audience, I understand. I knew way too many people that went to that fucking concert last week. Like, way many more people than I thought I would know go to a Taylor Swift concert, went to a Taylor Swift concert.
It's a big deal.
Well, they probably had more fun than you had at that Bob Dylan concert, so...
I had fun with the 2 bands before Bob Dylan. I love Bob Dylan, but he was not good. My Morning Jacket and Wilco were fucking great. So, anyway, Zook, your number 4 thing you'll most likely become famous for.
And this is probably this might take a while, but maybe this will be something I get famous for before I die. But I would like to become famous for having the world's finest collection of Epcot Center memorabilia. I'm working on it.
You are. You got a pretty good start.
I do. I have I have the official Epcot Center album framed on my wall, and a couple 30th anniversary things, a bunch of maps, and I'm getting there. Yeah. I'm working it up.
Epcot is the best park down there. I love Epcot.
Yep. It was even better in the 80s, but still pretty good.
I got there at 92 was my first time in Disney World. And I think Captain EO was gone, but I got to see that when I went to Disney last year. It was the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience at that point.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that at one point, too.
Yeah.
My biggest, I don't want to get too sidelined, but my biggest problem right now is that Journey into Imagination is a husk of what it was back in the day, and there's actually some rumors that they might be changing some of it back, and I am actually way more excited about that than I should be.
Figment is the little purple dragon.
Yep. So who only has they took him out completely at one point. And they've kind of shoehorned him back in, but now it's like the Imagination Institute or something. And
yeah, it's not good.
There used to be like an old guy like with a big beard and a crazy like steampunk flying machine called the Dream Finder, and he worked with Figment to help kids unlock their imagination. It's it sucks now. It really sucks, and it needs to go back to the way it was. There's
It's
a whole
one of the Python
second
guys. It's not Cleese.
Yeah, it's like Eric Idle.
It's Eric Idle, yeah.
And
yeah.
nothing against Eric Idle, but this is not the right venue for him. Like,
No.
Epcot went through this weird thing in the 90s where they started putting like stars in all their attractions, and that's why like Gary Sinise like hosts you at the Mission Space Pavilion, and you know Ellen's at the Universe of Energy and things like that. There's a whole second floor of Journey into Imagination that's not even being used. It had like a cool rainbow tunnel and all kinds of shit when we were kids, and it's all just empty now. So you know. Either way, that's a whole nother. I could do a whole fucking show about that. But I'm gonna own all the cool
Disney podcast or something.
Yeah, really. I'm gonna own all the coolest Epcot shit. You can actually kind of see it. My Vinylmation collection is back there.
Yeah, I see.
And I have the Sorcerer's Apprentice hat right there.
That's a good job. I should, we should someday work out a deal for the fig Vinylmation.
This is my favorite one in the room. Right there is the Mr. Toad statue. From when they closed Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. They moved him to the Pet Cemetery outside Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
And that's his headstone.
I think I took a picture of that when I was there and I sent it to you.
Yeah.
Moving on. All right. Dan Lloyd, number 3 thing you'll most likely become famous for.
Just something arbitrary, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Just through no fault of my own. Some sort of like man on the street news thing that catches on the internet, or being in the background of one of those. Just something dumb.
That would be awesome. Just something
What I was thinking of was
something that gets gift,
Yeah. You want to like photobomb some like newsworthy event by complete accident, and that's the only photo of it that there is.
That guy that like is in the background there in the photos that they do those cuts where they kind of like zoom in on the one dude.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Epic Beard Man video, the old guy on the bus who gets in a fight.
Yeah.
Now there's like the girl on the bus who has headphones on and is not fazed by anything. Like one of those types. And the amber lamps. Yeah.
That'd be a pretty good thing to get famous for. Zook, your number 3 thing.
All right, this takes like a tiny bit of setup, but I'm gonna go through it.
We got time.
Back right before the when the Wall Street bankers rode the country right to the brink of destroying it, right before like Occupy started and all that kind of stuff. The bankers clearly were not going to pay any sort of like let's say fines or jail time or anything like that, and they just seemed to be like completely above the law and nothing could touch them. I had read this very small story about one of these high-level bankers and one of these banks was at the gym like running on the treadmill, and somebody just walked up to him and punched him in the face, and this always stuck with me, almost like the beginning of the Truman Capote movie, where he just like read like the tiny newspaper article and it like stuck with him that this guy's entire world, all the lawyers in the world that were protecting him from jail time, like nothing could just pop inside his little bubble that he had protecting himself, except for the physical aspect of this guy just walked up to him and punched him in the face while he was on the treadmill. I'm smiling now about it because the image of this just makes me laugh. I would like to punch a politician in the face. It doesn't even matter which one. Like, I don't even care which one, and I don't even want to do it hard. I don't want to like draw blood or anything. I just want to do it. Like, I just want to walk up to a politician and punch him.
If you had to face jail
arrested.
time.
Yeah, but I'll get arrested for it, and then I'll be internet famous. Certainly, like that's front page Reddit.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can get Reddit to pay your lawyer bill probably.
Yeah, that's it. And like I said, I don't want to.
Or at least buy a pizza.
I don't want to leave any black eyes or anything. I just want to I just want to pierce that fucking bubble that they think they have protecting them from the rest of the world, and I just want to pop them one.
Yeah.
So that's it. I just want to punch a politician in the face.
That's not a bad thing to want to be famous for. Oh, Dan Lloyd, your number 2 thing that you think you'll most likely become famous for.
Nintendo, if you're listening. You guys, I would be the best Nintendo Goodwill ambassador there ever was.
Would be? You already are.
Well, I need to get
officially though.
Famous for it.
Right now, it's all pro bono work.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, that's gonna look good on the resume once I go in. Like, oh, look at all these tweets. Basically, like Reggie, when he was about kicking ass and taking names, not without the business side of things. I don't know shit about business, but if they need me to go somewhere on TV and talk about how great Nintendo is, I can do that.
I'd be down for that.
Reggie got soft.
I'd watch that. I'd watch that
Reggie
Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Your whole resume. You would just have to hand them your Twitter profile. Like, this is my handle.
Like, this is my.
That's my resume.
This is my Twitter.
Oh,
this is my apartment.
I'm seeing here that you don't play Animal Crossing. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to use you.
Hey, that doesn't mean I don't own it on GameCube.
I had the GameCube version and the DS version, and it was the same exact game.
I'm sure it still is.
Yeah. All right, Dan, your number 2 thing you'll most likely become famous for.
All right. We'll talk about this more in a minute, but I am hoping to one day get famous for being a game designer. My name on the box.
And particularly, we're not talking about video game. We're talking about tabletop.
Really, I wouldn't be choosy, but you know,
I'm not trying to put a label on it.
No, I would put my name on anything. Is what I'm trying to say.
His tabletop game doesn't take off, but some video game designer loves it, and that takes off.
Or honestly, I'll sell my soul out to get my name on the front of a box. You want to do that Rumble Roses all-girl wrestling sequel? Sure, I'll put my name on that. Hopefully not, but you start at the top. Like, no man, I'm gonna make that fucking BioShock Shenmue like open world huge thing, and then you just start sliding down, and next thing you know, you're making backyard wrestling.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of a sidebar, but I've always had the thought process of like if you get your 15 minutes or whatever, just sell out everything you can. Just like go like cereal,
absolutely,
action figures, cartoon, lunchbox, like everything you can, because it might not last. It might not be around.
I would put George Lucas to shame with the way that I would. Are you fucking kidding me? You know what doesn't keep you warm after your 15 minutes are over? Your fucking high moral standard.
Yeah, your pride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well,
you
gotta go more. You gotta be
more.
More Kiss and less Springsteen.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of punk bands, and it's like even today in 2013, people still give them shit for like, oh man, signed to a major label, you guys are sellout. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? You think you want to play garages all the time? Like, yeah, give me a contract, I'll fucking sign it. Like, put my name on a lunchbox, put my face on a flag. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, if somebody's gonna buy it, I am gonna give them the ability to fucking buy it.
Strike while the iron's hot, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say when you brought up Rumble Roses, that like this is coming from a guy who has shamelessly bought almost every Dead or Alive game since like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And
I don't know, like Rumble
I wouldn't
Roses.
touch Rumble Roses with a 10-foot pole.
Well, I'm gonna say this. Rumble Roses sounds like the most bizarre pull ever, and the only reason I thought of it is because I was at the farmers market over the weekend, and I was trying to like buy some PlayStation 2 games, but I had to talk the guy down some, and like I tried to talk him down to $1 for Rumble Roses, and he wouldn't take it, so I just put it back and like walked away. And that's the only reason that particular game like stuck in my head, because I decided that $1 was the accurate price to pay for a copy of Rumble Roses.
What about BMXXX?
Oh, that's a good one. Would have been a good one.
All right, Dan Lloyd, bring your list home, and what is the number 1 thing you will most likely become famous for?
All right, guys, if I gotta go down for something, Hollywood loves a remake, and let's just say in the future they're probably going to try to remake Back to the Future, and that doesn't need to be done. So I would be very proud to be famous for that guy that started the protest riot against the Back to the Future remake.
Nice.
That's a worthy thing.
That is a worthy.
Yep.
I wish you were around before Indiana Jones 4 got made.
I've read recently that there is rumblings that they're going to remake Casablanca.
Oh, really?
It's my favorite film of all time. It is perfect, frame for frame. No. I'm going to be that guy who flies out to Hollywood and starts punching people in the face while they're on the treadmill. Like that's...
See? All of a sudden, burst in that little bubble of their world. Like, the world doesn't want a Casablanca remake, but they think it. They think better. They think better than you do.
Yeah, they know better.
You just go up and bop them one on the nose.
Yeah. Fuck you. Here's looking at you, bitch.
So there you go.
Exactly, yeah, they'll have to do all those winks and nods. And
let me tell you something, though. If that movie happens, they should put that slogan on a fucking lunchbox and sell that shit.
All right, Zug, what's your number 1 thing you'll most likely become famous for?
All right, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to become famous for literally killing people that use the word literally when they mean figuratively. I'm going to start that trend. Somebody's going to be in a conversation and they're going to say, "Hey man, my head literally exploded," and I'm just going to bust in and kill them, and then like leave, and it'll be like, "Dude, that's that guy. That's that literally guy." I will strike constantly until people stop using the word literally when they don't mean literally.
Like grammar Nazi extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just with that, you can use semicolons and commas and put the apostrophe in the wrong place, and you can say there, and there totally wrong. I will let you go for the most part because we all make that mistake. But fucking literally is a word that you add. You need to know what that word means.
You literally need to use that word correctly.
Yeah, and it happens all the time. Honestly, like if you start thinking about it, like once it's in your head, people say literally all the time, and
Way
nobody
too much.
ever means it the way that they mean it. That's it. But the world will be a better place because then people will know.
That would be awesome. You'd be like, was it Terry Crews, office linebacker?
Yes!
You just like bust through walls and stuff and be like, that's not the word.
That word doesn't mean what you think it means.
What with like a fucking katana or something?
And then I would just run out of the room.
I just want to see Dan bust through walls.
Like Kool-Aid Man style?
Yep.
That way when people say, "I almost literally died," then they will literally die. I will help them with that. I will help them make that word used correctly, even if they didn't mean it that way.
Almost literally died. That's okay.
All right,
Number
gentlemen.
one.
I've rendered judgment upon thee. Let's recap. At number 5, Lloyd said he will become the 5-hit combo champion. And Dan said that he will most likely become famous for when Perpetual Geek, our Twitter, @Perpetual Geek, has more followers than the Kardashians. I like that they're both PGM-centric. It's a good choice, gentlemen. But I had to go with Dan Lloyd here. I have a good feeling about his future in 5-hit combo competition. A very good feeling about the future. At number 4, Lloyd said that he will become famous for being Taylor Swift X number 401. And Dan said he'll most likely become famous for his obnoxious collection of Epcot memorabilia. I used the word obnoxious, he did not. But I went with Dan Zook here for number 4, his Epcot memorabilia collection. I know how passionate he is about that. Which actually does edge out Lloyd's passion for Taylor Swift.
I did like Lloyd's answer of Taylor Swift though. That's a good.
Oh, I loved it.
That was a good one. It was
great.
To give props on that one.
Number 3, Dan Lloyd said he will arbitrarily be in the wrong place at the wrong time and become famous for being that guy.
That's a great answer.
That is a great answer. And Dan said he will most likely become famous for being that guy who punches a politician in the face. Most likely while they're on the treadmill. I went with the arbitrarily being in the wrong place at the wrong time because that image makes me fucking laugh. If you're watching our video feed or you know, like you see, Lloyd's got that look. He's got that like wrong place, wrong time kind of look. That's somewhat like that halo of innocence that sort of just hovers over him at all times.
Like Kennedy gets shot, and in the background there's like Dan looking up from something.
Yeah, he's the guy like most everybody's running. He's the guy like on the ground covering his head, you know. Like, all right, number 2, Dan Lloyd said he will most likely become famous for being the Nintendo Goodwill Ambassador, and Dan Zook will become famous for being a game designer, and. Dan Lloyd's already got a pretty good head start on you, Dan Z. Yeah. So he gets this one.
All right. I guess subsequently I would become a world famous game designer and then sell out as fast as possible. I would set a record for that.
You'd be like Steven Jackson. You put him to shame.
Yeah.
Preemptively sell out. Like when you pitch your game to whatever game company, include all of that licensing shit with it.
And I just want to let you know now. I will sign anything.
Like put that cart way before the horse. Just let them know up front. Like you've got big plans.
I'm gonna make the Cars franchise look like pittance.
Yeah.
If we're paying attention, that gives Dan Lloyd the win. But to wrap things up here, number 1, Dan Lloyd said he will become famous for being the anti Back to the Future remake riot starter. And Dan Z said he will be the literally people killer. And I had to go with Dan Z on this one because, again, much like the other one he won at number 4, I know how passionate he is about the misuse of the word literally, which I think was on display here tonight. So, by a virtue or margin of 3-2, Mr. Lloyd, you have your first win.
Yay.
And look at it this way. You are undefeated. You have 0 losses.
That's true.
So far in 5-hit combo. So you're well on your way to being known as the 5-hit combo champion. Yeah. So congratulations. I'm glad I had a hand in that.
Yep.
We had a voicemail this week. We're not jumping over the post 5-hit combo bullshit session, but we had a 5-hit combo related voicemail this week. It was after our top 5 game shows that Lloyd and I faced off on last week, and I think I said to Dan the very next day a title. I was like, I completely fucking forgot about this one game show that would have been my number 1. And but let's take a look. And listen, I would usually introduce this by saying, the person's name who sent this in, but to be quite honest, I can't tell if you said your name, and if you did, I don't know what you said. So please identify yourself on either, hit us up on Twitter at Perpetual Geek or send us an email at our podcast at perpetualgeekmachine.net. We'll give you full credit next week.
Yeah, they called in on the phone, so it's like, just Skype.
Exactly. So I apologize, but here's the voicemail.
Hey guys, just listened to your 100th episode. It was pretty great. One game show I didn't hear on the 5-hit combo. It was my favorite game was Supermarket Sweep. It was just the insane show with people running around a grocery mart trying to get as much groceries as possible into their cart. And it's kind of always hilarious, just people cramming turkeys and everything into the carts, rushing back to try to get the most money available. And it was just, that was my game that I saw when I was a kid that was just so crazy that's my top game, even though it's probably not very popular, just the craziness of everybody running around. I'll hear you again, and hopefully you have more than another 100 episodes coming up. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you very much. I did immediately say, also I apologize about my dog barking in the middle of that. But Supermarket Sweep was something I watched a lot of episodes of. My mom and I would watch that like every day, and it was the goofiest fucking lowest budget goddamn game show you've ever seen. But it took part Price is Right, and then part shopping spree, like the Toys R Us shopping spree you always wanted to win when you were a kid. That was the other part of Supermarket Sweep. And everybody always went for they went for the turkeys first because they were really expensive. And
damn right.
And you could only get 5 of the same thing though, right? There's a limit.
Yeah, there was a limit. Yeah.
I always thought if I was on there, I would just even within the limit, just grab 5 of everything as soon as you came to it. Because they had the other bonus stuff fill up a pound of candy or fill up the coffee, or it's don't waste your time on that shit. Just grab everything.
Yeah. Yeah, just grab whatever you can. But yeah, there was always that one, there was 2 people to a team, and one person would go off and try to find the secret items. The other person would run to the turkeys and the with the caviar or whatever else that was out in the supermarket. So, Supermarket Sweep would have definitely made my list, and I feel remiss for forgetting about that one. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Additionally and finally, Fred and I also levied our 5-hit or our 5 lists on our 5 game shows. They were actually eerily similar. It's almost a good thing that we didn't go up against each other on this particular list. But that is actually posted over on our podcast or our blog now. So we decided that a lot of times we do have our own favorites even if we're not on, and we kind of just want to get them out there anyway. So if you'd like to see a couple more lists of our favorite game shows with some reasoning why, you can check that out. It's right on the front page of our blog. Look for the Pressure Luck logo or graphic.
We're also we love hearing from you guys, so please weigh in with your own list in the comments section. Email us, hit us up on the voicemail, which I've been love getting these. It's 856-282-0042 because 42 is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And so just please hit us up. We want to hear from you. And as you can see, we'll play all your voicemails. If it takes an hour of the show, I'll just make a separate podcast with nothing but voicemails for PGM. So, Dan.
Yes.
Dan Zuccarelli.
Yes.
Speaking of your number 2 answer,
I made a game, or I'm making a game. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about it, man. I've had the honor of helping to play test it.
Yes. So I guess what I learned this at DexCon, I think, but like every single board game blog out there also has a game that they're working on. So I don't think I'm necessarily alone in this, but for the past couple of months, I've been working on a card game that's like it's a set collection game. So it started with the idea of Rummy and then evolve from there. The basic gist of it is that the players are all playing as blacksmiths, and you're trying to create different weapons, medieval weapons, shields and maces and armor and long swords and stuff like that, to play to the table like you would a meld in Rummy to get points. The twist to it here is that there's a deck of customers that are looking for particular weapons, and to get the points at the end of the round, you need to forge that item and get it down to the table. But then you also need to sell it to the correct customer. So there's a management of when you play cards and then when you sell them to the particular customers. It's gone through numerous different revisions. It was barely playable at first, and then the customer thing wasn't even in there initially, and then it totally changed into something else. And the last couple times I've played it or watched it played, I finally started having fun with it, and it seemed like other people are actually starting to enjoy it as well. It's a functioning game. It's certainly not a finished game, and it needs a lot of refinements and work and all that, but it is a playable game. And I'd like to
very much so. It's very much a playable game. I mean, like you said, like the changes you've made in between, especially the most recent ones, have made it. Like it's. I think you have something now. Like this is where you start to make the fine adjustments.
Yes.
It seems.
Yeah, I'm done with like the wholesale changes, and I'm more down for like just the refinements at this point. But just if you're I actually have them sitting here. So if you are watching at home, see here's an example of one of the cards. So
right.
You'll be creating a mace, and a mace takes 3 cards. You can see up in the corner there's part 1 of 3 of the mace. So if you got 3 parts of this mace, the grip, the shaft, and the flanges, then you would have a complete mace, and you could put it on the table, and then you would need to sell it to a customer that's looking to buy that particular mace. So I mention it because I'm confident enough in where the game is now to actually mention that I am working on a thing, because I'd like to I keep things pretty close to the chest, especially when I'm doing something creatively. If I'm not totally happy with it, Kevin can attest to that.
Yeah.
My a combination of my shyness and self-confidence getting the better of me. But after I do a little bit more of the refining, I really am going to need I think a spot where I need people to play it and check it out and try it. So I might be leveraging the listeners to maybe send out a couple of copies to people that might be interested in checking it out, just to get some feedback. So yeah, listen for that, or if you have any experience creating games or advice in this stage of the process, I would love to hear any and all of that stuff. And if you're a publisher, actually don't contact me. I'm not ready for any of that stuff yet. But it is fun, and and again, Kevin can attest to this. For a long time, it basically had to like force my hand to have me break the box out to like show it to anybody. Yeah. And in the past week and a half now, I've played it like numerous times with a lot of different people, and I don't have a problem saying, hey, you guys want to check this out again? Like I made some changes, so like I know I'm getting happier with it because I'm not hiding it anymore. Right. which to me, I know myself to say that like, okay, it actually is something that I feel confident in. That's not just like, hey, I made this thing. It's like, hey, I made this thing, and I think it might be okay. Now let's play it and see if we can make it good, and then if we can make it even better, then there's something worth exploring there. Or if not, it's been a great exercise to take into numerous other ideas. But I think I've sort of decided that I've played enough games in my time that I can design a game if I want to, and I've sort of been trying to put my mind to do that as like a creative endeavor. So might not do anything, might not ultimately do anything. It might just live as like a game that I created, but I'm totally fine with that. It's been fun so far. So I'll probably be talking about it more in the a subsequent podcast as we refine it.
Yeah, it scratches a lot of my itches. Like I think I told you last time when we used to play World of Warcraft, and they had the armor sets. Like I didn't care if like mismatched pieces of armor were better for my character. I wanted the matching pieces of armor. And that's always like that's kind of my organizational OCD sort of thing, and
Yeah.
So your game in particular scratches a lot of those itches, but it's a very playable, very fun game.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to fucking create the cosmic encounter on first time out or anything. It's just it's a simple card game. A couple different decks of cards because there's different options, but it's supposed to just invoke the we're all blacksmiths sort of competing for customers and every time we've played so far. I've seen multiple paths of strategy taken on how to acquire the most points or the right way to do it, and to me that's always a good sign that there's clearly not just one way to do it. It was exciting when it comes down to it because it comes down to the end of the round because you're trying to get those items sold because they're worth like jack shit for points if you don't get them sold to a customer even if you've made them. So it's been fun to see people enjoy the game. Or be frustrated by the game, because they couldn't pull off what they were trying to pull off, not because the rules worked against them, but just because something, a strategy didn't work out. So,
right,
it's a lot of fun. It's the starting was the hardest part. If you're thinking about trying something like that, I just started with Rummy. I like the idea of making sets, of making melds, and then I was going to just originally re-theme a Rummy deck. I was like, let me just make them weapons, and then, all right, well, instead of suits, let's try coats of armor instead. Let's add a 5th coat of armor. So I knew I was starting with a solid game because Rummy is it's a famous, popular set game. And then I just started adding rules on top of that and taking other rules away instead of trying to create it just from scratch. But again, like with a lot of creative things, starting was the hard part. So.
Yeah. Well, it's coming along great, and I'm looking forward to when you feel comfortable getting it out there to people and seeing what their reaction is like, what suggestions they have.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
Yep.
But gentlemen, I think that's going to wrap up show number 101 of the Perpetual Geek Machine. And remember, you can always contact us with any questions, suggestions, or comments via email. podcast@perpetualgeekmachine.net is our email address. We are on Twitter. You can tweet us at Perpetual Geek. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/PerpetualGeek. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we're getting these video archives of the Hangouts up there, and we're youtube.com/PerpetualGeekMachine. Perpetual Geek was taken. If you follow us on Tumblr, it's just kind of a mirror of our website or our blog, perpetualgeekmachine.tumblr.com, and you got to search for us on Google Plus because that fucking URL shit is a mess there. It's like plus.google.com/11459797258. Like it's like this whole fucking 20-digit long string of numbers is our official URL. It's fucking stupid.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? But here's the
Especially
fucking bitch of it is that it's killer for SEO. Jesus Christ, it's so good for SEO. But let's not talk too much backyard baseball. But anyway, yeah, always last thing, call us and leave us a voicemail, 856-282-0042. And so for Dan Zagarelli and Daniel Lloyd, I'm Kevin Alexander. Thank you for listening. And until next time, we are shutting down the machine.